Hello everybody. Hope y'all had a great week off, got lots of rest, ready to get back at this. We've got 2 weeks and then finals. We can do this. Let's go. Alright, this is my last golf tournament for this semester, so I'll be in your business from now on. Alright, so today we're doing quadratic formula. You may remember this a bit from previous years. In the Google Classroom, you may have also noticed a little file that says quadratic formula song. If you want a little laugh, go ahead and watch that. But if you remember, this is x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. Over here on the right, you'll notice that I said used to solve a quadratic equation when it is in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c, which is standard form. Here are the steps. Be sure the equation is in the appropriate form. Identify a, b, and c. Plug those into the formula and simplify. That's all there is to it. We're going to do 4 equations real quick, and then you can work on your assignment. Alright, so in this problem, the a is 4, b is -5, and c is 1. So the formula says the opposite of b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. I'm not going to make you memorize the formula. It's on every formula chart you've ever seen, but I promise after you do it a few times you will memorize it. Here's one of the big things. The very first term is the opposite of b. b in this one is a -5, so that means it is going to change to a +5. So that's going to be 5 plus or minus the square root of b squared. So that's going to be -5 squared minus 4. 4 is always part of the formula, times a, which in this problem is 4, times c, which in this problem is 1, all divided by 2 times 4. Okay, so I'm going to skip colors here so you can see we're doing different steps. So the next thing I do is I rewrite everything except what's underneath the square root sign. So I have 5 plus or minus something, all divided by 8. Then at that point I go to my calculator to simplify the rest. I have 5 squared minus 4 times 1. So that's, remember to put your negative in parentheses, 5 squared minus 4 times 1. You don't even really have to waste your time to do 1. And I get 9. So that means that this is 9. Now, this is where it's going to vary every little bit depending on what we have underneath the square root. The square root here, hopefully you recognize that 9 is a perfect square. So that's 5 plus or minus the square root of 9 is 3 divided by 8. That plus or minus thing, that really means there's 2 answers here. So x equals 5 plus 3 divided by 8, and x equals 5 minus 3 divided by 8. So we simplify those. 5 plus 3 is 8, divided by 8 is 1, and 5 minus 3 is 2, divided by 8 simplifies to 1/4. So x equals 1 and 1/4. That would be the 2 solutions to that problem. Alright, so for this next one I'm not going to rewrite the formula. A is 3, b is -5, and c is also -5. So x equals the opposite of b, so this time that makes it a +5, plus the minus the square root of -5 squared minus 4 times a is 3, and c is -5, all divided by 2a. Alright, let's change colors here. So x equals 5 plus or minus the square root of something divided by 6. Alright, so this time I've got -5 squared minus 4 times 3 times -5. So let's go do that. I'm just going to repeat that here. So it's, -5 squared minus 4 times 3 times -5. This time I get 85. Okay, so 85. It means we've got to factor. Let's see if this can factor. Okay, so square root of 85. Well, let's look at your prime number that goes in there is 5. 5 goes into 8 once, so 3 left over, 17. Okay, 17 is prime. So this means I have x equals 5 plus or minus. I can't factor that at all, because this is just a square root of 5 times 17. There's nothing that comes out. So actually, this is your answer. You can leave it like that. Did not remember that. Okay, so if you can't factor it, you can't factor it. That's your answer. All right, let's look at a couple more. On this one, remember if it's x squared, that means x is 1, b is -1, and c is 2. So x equals the opposite of b, so that makes it a positive 1, plus or minus the square root of -1 squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times 1. Alright. So x equals 1 plus or minus the square root of something divided by 2. So this time I've got -1 squared, that's 1, minus 4 times 1 times 2. So let's see. -1 squared times 4 times 1 times 2. And again, y'all don't have to put the 1 in there, I'm just doing it. I get -7. Alright, so let's think about this a minute. What does it mean when you have a negative under the square root? The square root of -7, if you remember, is the square root of -1 times the square root of 7. So that's I times the square root of 7. That's about all we can do with that. So x equals 1 plus or minus I times the square root of 7 divided by 2. I'm okay with that as your answer. In some places you might see those written separately as 1 plus I square roots of 7 over 2 and 1 minus I square root of 7 over 2. I'm okay if you just leave it with the plus or minus there in the middle. Number 4, this one looks a little different. Hopefully you notice there's no x term. So that means that b is 0. So you've got 6, 0, -8. Work it out the same way. There's no such thing as the opposite of 0, so it's just 0 plus or minus the square root of 0 squared minus 4 times 6 times -8. All divided by 2 times 6. I don't need that line all the way underneath the x, but that's okay. Alright, x equals 0 plus or minus. I'm going to leave that off. That's just plus or minus. 0 squared is obviously 0. So I have -4 times 6 times -8. -4 times 6 times -8. 192. Great. Nice big number for us. Alright, so 192. Let's see if we can factor 192. 2 goes into 192. That's going to be 8. 1 left over, 86. 2 is going to go into there. 43. Alright, 43. What's going to go into 43? 2 doesn't. 3, nope. 5, nope. 7, 9. Guess what, people? 43 is prime. So this is 2 times 2 times 43, which these two will come out. So that's 2 times the square root of 43. Okay, so that means x equals plus or minus 2 square root of 43 divided by 12. And again, I'm okay if you leave it like that, or you could say 2 square roots of 43 divided by 12, or negative 2 square root of 43 divided by 12. But actually, this is just like a fraction here, so that would really reduce to square root of 43 over 6, because you've got that. And then this one would be negative square root of 43 over 12. Okay, if you get to this point right here, I'd be okay. If you want to keep factoring down, that's fine. But I'm okay if you leave it the other way. Okay. All right. Hopefully that gets you some good information there. Be sure you get the assignment from the sub and work on that. First period, you'll probably have time to start on the assignment. We'll work on it again on Tuesday and hopefully get it finished up. Please work and do your best, and I'll answer any questions when we return. We have a test scheduled for not the first week we're back, but the second week, right around the 10th of December. Just so if you want to kind of put that on your calendar, we'll give you one more test, which will hopefully help, because then you'll have 3 tests instead of just 2. But that is it's all I've got for you right now. Hope y'all had a great break, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.